And I know RFK is not a fan of these GLP-1s. I am. This is one of the problems that we have, and the reason that tariffs are so important. That's the failure of the Democrats right now, is hate orange man, and I don't hear one thing about what they want to do. I've been going after Greg Doucette a little bit, and I'm going to go after him a little bit harder. I do want to move to the hottest topic this week. It doesn't end well unless it ends. Can't just report the fucking obvious.
I don't care what a critic got to say, I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life, I'm about to come and
Just a motherfucking jump. Just go. Let's fucking go. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy. And so much to talk about today. And I will be talking and sharing to the one guy in the room that does all of the rest of the hard stuff. Well, he does all of the hard stuff. What I do is the easy thing. And that's Leo. Leo, what's going on, brother?
Not much, man. You know, another early morning.
Early morning, man.
Gets going, you know.
We have, okay, we're going to take a minute and talk about how dumb I am sometimes.
Okay.
All right. So let's see. First dumb thing is, so tonight we have the Alabama concert that we're going to.
Okay.
Well, I didn't check the dates, and we are going tonight because I don't want to miss it, because I've never seen Alabama, you know, in my lifetime, as probably I would put them as the biggest country band, you know, really. Love them growing up, and yeah, just tons of hits, and there's original members.
Gotcha.
That's important if you want to see these old groups. Always look in any group, people, and see who is still in the band. Because as I pointed out before, Journey has zero original members, not a single one, and they're still promoting themselves as Journey, which I think is like totally wrong. Totally wrong. So I booked that, and it was a little while ago, right? And then, you know, I'm not the most romantic guy, but I can be if I need to be, or, you know, I can give my woman a little bit of romance. Well, there's this thing, Fever, and they do these concerts where it's like instrumentals and like a shit ton of candles. And this was going to be at the zoo, you know, like a outdoor zoo amphitheater kind of thing, I believe. And they were going to be playing for an hour and 5 minutes. They were going to be playing Queen.
Okay.
And if you've ever seen these, you know, instrumentals of violins playing rock, it's actually pretty cool. And it was a cool setting in it. Well, I also bought tickets to that.
Same day.
So I gave those away to my friend Marlon. Because I couldn't figure out on the app if I could sell them or whatever. It was just, I didn't want to deal with it. So that was the first thing that I did that was messed up. The second thing is, last night, I had bought tickets just a couple days ago for the Marlins Diamondbacks game.
Okay. Also today.
Well, that's who they play.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, and I said Marlin Diamondbacks. It's not a Marlins Diamondbacks game. It's a Diamondbacks versus Marlins game. And do you know what the difference is there?
No.
The second team is the home team.
Oh, wow.
So if you see something that says Marlins versus Diamondbacks, you would think the Diamondbacks, it's in Arizona.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't look and see where it was. And this new website I got onto called TickPick, I found much cheaper tickets than I'd found for really super good seats, right? And so I bought them for last night, except the game was in Miami.
Makes it a little hard to get there.
And I did complain a little bit about that to them, but I was able to sell them for almost what I I think I ended up losing $7 or $8 from what I
Oh,
paid for them. So not
that's
bad.
not bad at all.
I
No.
went to, and what I liked about the site too is they don't charge like fees. They charge a small fee to the seller.
Okay.
So the person buying is not paying $40 a ticket or $100 a ticket or, whatever different I don't even know how they figure out the fees. I just know on Ticketmaster it's a lot, and I'm not someone who complains about this, but it is crazy a lot. That I agree with people. I think, the two reason ticket prices are really, really high that people complain about, and it's not how much the players are making or any of that. It's because these resellers use bots to get the tickets to reduce the supply and jack up the price,
Mhm.
and then also the exorbitant fees, which Trump said he was going to do something about. He stood in the Oval Office and talked with Kid Rock about that, about doing something about the fees. And I think they want to do, and Kid Rock did mention the bots as well, and that doesn't go, this isn't, if it was money going to the artist, that would be one thing. But, and I don't deprive a reseller of making some money, but that is ridiculous when you have almost no chance for some venues to even get tickets at the face value. And I pay, look, I've paid $2,000-3,000 for tickets. You mean I, I've I've done it because if you want to go, that's what you have to do. Well, but I'm not convinced about this site yet, but it wasn't, they had it backwards, which wasn't helpful. And then trying to sell it and navigate their site was god awful. It was the worst experience. So that's me being dumb, buying tickets to watch a game in Miami.
Miami.
And, if I hadn't had, it almost made me want to get on a plane and head to Miami for a few days, but my schedule doesn't allow that right now. That would have been funny to do. That would have been funny and fun. I'd have hooked up with my friend Mike, have a great time in Miami. It's been a year now since I've been to Miami. I think I'm ready.
Getting an itch to go back.
I'm ready. Yeah, I'm pretty sure of it. And it's ocean, which Don will love, and especially if we get to go on their monster boat, which is phenomenal. So, all right, that's my dumb shit. Got that out of the way. Let's talk about something very important, and this would be in my MAHA segment. Make America healthy again. And I know RFK is not a fan of these GLP-1s. I am, when done right, when used right. But this is, I think, very important right now. That this was on the 14th, so just a few days ago, and this is right from the FDA's website. And obviously, people have written articles and stuff on it, but the FDA was notified that several hundred units of counterfeit Ozempic, 1 milligram, were in the U.S. drug supply chain, a counterfeit Ozempic, which is semaglutide. Okay, but these would say Ozempic and come in the pins. They would already be pre-filled. When you buy semaglutide at, on a peptide website, it's going to be compounded semaglutide, which is absolutely every bit just as good and a whole lot cheaper. The problem there is too, much like this, is because the market is so huge, we're getting fakes now. And that is not good. And so I know people are going to maybe try to go to the the peptides, the compounded version semaglutide, because it's cheaper. But just beware that, I've been in this business for a while. I've been using testosterone and other various performance enhancers, weight loss drugs and stuff for 16 years and helping others do the same. I mean, my experience is huge. There, in the last year, there are peptide companies popping out of nowhere. And it's no different than the supplement business. And if you do any research at all, you will find that the supplement business is, it's not a great, it doesn't have a bunch of great people in it. That's what I mean to say. It has a bunch of people that have made a shit ton of money that don't really care about people and that just care about the money. And, like they spike whey protein powders by making it look like they're putting more protein in there when they're not. You get natural dick pills, like a Viagra or Cialis, but it's supposed to be natural, right? And the FDA has found some that have put other things in there, like Tolap and the real drug. They put the real drug in there. So the reason it has a little bit of effectiveness in there isn't because of the natural components. It's because it's putting a real drug in there that's not on the label, and they're not allowed to sell it that way. And there are others out there that, that are just pure garbage. They're not putting anything in there. Well, the only way you're going to know if you're getting good semaglutide or not is to test it. And the reason people come to me and do business with me is because that's one of the things we do with the peptide products that we have is we send them out for legit professional testing at an independent third party. Okay, this is all they do. It's just a testing lab. That's all they do. And they send it back, results back to us about what the purity level is. And you want to be at like 99.5, something like that. And then they also make sure that the strength is correct. That if it says 5 milligrams, on it, or it's a 1 milligram pill, 25 milligram pill, or whatever, that's what is exactly in it. Not it's says 5 milligrams on the label and it comes back at 2.5. So where they're underdosing, because that happens in the underground world of testosterone as well. People will underdose stuff, or they will put real testosterone cypionate in a bottle that says Primobolan. It's not Primobolan. Will you get results with real testosterone cypionate? Of course. But if you're already taking testosterone cypionate and you also think you're taking Primo and you're just taking more testosterone cypionate and you don't even know it, none of that is cool. And overdosing isn't cool either. You got to understand drug dealers, right? Just like other drugs, they might spike things for a minute, especially if you're a new person. So you get those results and then start selling you their underdose stuff later. Okay. So and the FDA does not regulate supplements. They do not approve or disapprove of dietary supplements. Now, if it's reported that something is bad or something's wrong, like in the case that we showed, they will do that. They will do things like that. But it might be a U.S. Attorney's Office, the New York U.S. Attorney's Office some years ago, I think around maybe 2017 was when it was, they went into, because y'all know, and I'm not promoting it here, but I do represent a company also that does vitamins, okay? And it's not a pyramid scheme. Pyramid schemes are illegal. It's just vitamins. And buying them this way isn't better or worse than buying them at Walmart, okay? But getting them at Walmart doesn't make them better either, because, again, the New York Attorney General's office investigated and they tested a number of supplements, just whey protein powder, just the stuff people generally use, creatine, different things like that. They tested it, and they also did Walgreens, Target, and I think there was 4 or 5 of companies. Guess what? A whole shit ton of them came back that they didn't have what they said they had on the label. So it's very, very common. You need to be very, very careful about what you're getting and what you're buying. I was just in Mexico, right? And Chase, as you know, there's like every third building is a fucking pharmacy. Like it's huge.
Oh yeah.
It's huge. Now, a lot of people like to go get stuff that they can't get here, and get it easier. I can say I was in one, so I know what was going on, but people came in and bought ivermectin. Easier to get there than here. Or they would get Z-Packs, or other antibiotics just to have, for the family. Now, there was a time that I did that, but that was quite a while ago because you just don't know now what's actually in it. It's harder to trust now than it was years ago. Maybe it was the cost was a difference. They didn't need to rip people off, but people do get ripped off. That doesn't mean every product they have is bad or is a ripoff. But I'm saying if you really want to be responsible and do the best for yourself, you need to at least once test the company's stuff. And maybe you buy a couple things from the company, again, even if it's online, because you do not need a prescription to get semaglutide. You can legally buy it online. I legally offer semaglutide. So, but my stuff is tested because I just don't, because I care and because I want it to work, because I want people to actually get results. And then besides that, then the other problem, so this is just adding to the problems. So you want to make sure you get real semaglutide, real Ozempic, and it's really, bad when they're repackaging stuff like this and trying to make it look real, and it's not. It's not the same difference as, again, in Mexico. If somebody's selling individual cigars and telling me they're Cuban, I would never buy one because I know it's a really good Mexican cigar that's worth about a third of whatever they're trying to sell it for. It's a really good mix with a Cohiba label on it. And usually they do a shitty job on the label, so it's pretty easy to spot. And I would have a hard time even buying a box of cigars there. But if I did, you would be safer getting a box if the box was totally sealed. It's a little safer. I'm just saying. But a better place to get it, like when I was on a cruise, I did not get them that way. I got a hookup with it was a different island. Why can't I think of it now? But there was another island where it's all jewelry and banks. Grand Cayman. Thank you. Thank you, Troy. I gave myself clues to remember what it was. But Grand Cayman, everything is legit. The watches are legit because you're going to a legit jeweler. Okay. Rolexes do not cost $200. They're $8,000 to $100,000. That's what they cost. So, yeah. But you could get real Cuban cigars in Grand Cayman. You don't have to worry about it. You're going into a legit, cigar shop, and they're legally allowed to purchase them from Cuba. They're allowed to trade and be able to get that. So, but, even if you got a fake cigar in Mexico, it's not going to kill you, at least not that one cigar. But getting a bad drug that's loaded with fentanyl can kill you. Just one time, it can kill you. So that's why this is such a big deal, and why I'm really going to start going on a little bit of a rampage here about the fake supplements out there, because it's just really, it's bothering me. I hate it. That's why I got in this business as a side thing before it became a main thing for me, is because I wanted legitimate products and I didn't want to get ripped off. That's why I got into the business, and it just grew, and other people came to me because, hey, Troy, what are you doing? And, oh, well, can you help us out too? Can I get some of what you have? And we've built an incredible business now just on that. And then adding the social media in is just taking it off the charts. But it's very, very important to me that people get quality product and get real good advice on how to take it. So that's what I'm saying. So, the problem previously with Ozempic has been the fact that we have so many doctors who are prescribing it, or clinics, or people just getting it themselves. They don't have the information on how to take it properly. And I'm not talking just about the dosing either, because there is a main dosing protocol, but sometimes it's in people's best interest to tweak that a little bit, or maybe take a smaller dose more often, or start with an even smaller dose. So, everything has potential side effects, remember. Doesn't mean you're going to experience them. But there are certain ways to reduce the likelihood of those potential side effects happening by controlling the dosing. But also important to me is people not being told how to eat. So I've just been working with someone, a female that lost like 80 pounds, doing great. And then she got cut off from the Ozempic, but they were going to replace it. No, that's not what I meant. So if she didn't get cut off, she hit a plateau. That's what it was. She hit a plateau, and so they were going to switch her over to tirzepatide. That might be an answer, but after reading her comments and stuff, you know what the problem was? She was still eating crap. Now, she was eating less crap, which is why she lost the weight. But I even asked her, did anybody tell you how you need to eat on this? Did anybody talk to you about how much protein you need to be taking in? No. That's the problem. People need to be told the lifestyle changes they need to make this, to use these drugs properly and to get the best benefit, and to get the best benefit long term. So now we're just throwing an added problem in here. And if you're interested, if you have 1 milligram and you want to know if your Ozempic might be bad, just go to the FDA website where it has the numbers of, the serial numbers and stuff. And then you can check and see and just confirm that your stuff is okay. Now, I don't know what it means by, I don't know, did they say what was in it, or needles are counterfeit, so the needles might not be sterile. They've had 5 adverse events. So that means something is wrong with, potentially wrong with the drug. Now, it's listing some side effects that you can get from the real stuff, but definitely, if you are using 1 milligram dose of Ozempic, go to the FDA website and check the serial and the lot numbers on it. All right. And if you're getting a peptide, the semaglutide, and it's not easy to find, but we have a company that we send our stuff to, and it's not cheap. I think it's right around $180 to do the testing on a single product. But I'm not saying test every vial you get, but at least test one, so you can determine whether or not it's a company you can trust or not. That's super, super important. So, all right, let's continue on. We're going to continue on with this. Let's go to what the Trump signing. You're listening to the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy. We need your help. We need you to, now that you're listening to this, take a break, go back, hit that subscribe button, then come back and watch the rest of the show. Hit that subscribe button. Share this with somebody else who might be interested in these topics as well. Much appreciated. Much love. God bless. I'm the fucking guy. This is kind of cool. Trump did this in his first administration, tried to make an effort to lower prescription drug prices And I think this is something we absolutely need to focus on, that this is one of the problems that we have. And the reason that tariffs are so important is because we have to get our drug business back. China takes our patented drugs, copies them, and sells them. And that is absolutely illegal to do. They're protected by the patent. And we have, it's hard to compete then. That's how these companies, it's during the patent period that companies do charge more. It's to get the money back that they spent on all of the research testing, the testing process. And it's a long process with the FDA, 3 different phases that they have to go through. And so, why are these other countries allowed to sell our drugs that we created, that we made, we invented, and allowed to sell them, cheaper? That just shouldn't be a thing. And, look, there's lots of good reasons to attack big pharma for sure. Okay. But some drugs are necessary, just like, I beat up on doctors on certain things, but I think doctors are really good at other things. If you need surgery, go to the doctor, but when you're talking about overall getting healthy, not even considering, or a doctor not even telling someone that maybe they should be doing something else, or, I'm going to go back to you could call me a conspiracy theorist, but I'm hearing a lot of stuff, and I know somebody personally doing it who has cancer, who's taking ivermectin. Now, they're doing the other things the doctor said, but they're also doing some things that the doctor didn't say, and they really believe that what they're doing and taking the ivermectin is having a great impact on curing them of the cancer. Now, I'm not saying ivermectin cures cancer. I don't know. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing from people actually taking things. So it's just anecdotal. It's not, I don't have a study to cite or anything like that. But, would they ever not promote something because it's not going to make them money? We all know that happens. We know for 100% fact that happens, that they promote things and put down other things because they wouldn't make money then on that. So this is, let's see what the lower drug prices are. So the order, Department of Health and Human Services taking steps to reduce drug prices for American patients, lower drug prices for Medicare and seniors, improving Medicare drug pricing negotiation program. That's the one thing, by 22%, that's pretty significant, that during Obama's healthcare, Obamacare, one of the things that was crazy about Obamacare is it didn't do anything to allow negotiation on drug prices or healthcare in general, which, why wouldn't that be a part of it? It should have. That was one of the big criticisms of it. One of the big positives of Obamacare, and the one they always cite all the time, was covering people for pre-existing conditions. And I agree with that. But we didn't need Obamacare to do that. We could have focused on that one thing and requiring companies to do that, right? We could have done that. So let's say aligning Medicare payment for certain drugs with the cost by which hospitals actually acquire them. Here's the thing. It depends on the hospital, but you might pay $5 for one aspirin, or you might pay $20. Well, the reason you're, paying that increased price, in part, is you're having a registered nurse give it to you, and it's covering those costs. It's no different than if you make dinner. I had a reasonably priced steak yesterday for lunch, 29 bucks. It's what I paid to have somebody else make my steak. I could have made that same steak for 10 or less, but I would have been doing it. So people do need to, because hospitals use different ways to pass on the cost of drugs, procedures, but that stuff needs to be disclosed. And that's one of the things that I really liked about Trump's first term is trying to get any of these procedures to get transparent pricing. You know, most of us go to a doctor or we get something done and they tell us what the copay is and we pay it. How many of us ever actually look at what the real procedure ever costs? And how many of us ever, compared prices? I had a procedure done not long ago, testing my heart. It was like 30 grand, man. 30 grand. I didn't shop around. Maybe there was one because it wasn't going to benefit me in any way because most of it was going to be picked up by the insurance. But when we have that kind of a system, there's no incentive, there's no competition price. Versus, let me explain it this way, in a way that we should look at healthcare, because I've also had this done. I had LASIK surgery years ago, and I had it when it went down in price a little bit, but it started out as a procedure that was about 10 grand. And then it was 5, and then it was 3, and then, I don't know, you can get both eyes done now for about $1,000. And you don't choose the person to do the surgery based on, well, he must be better because he charges more. Because once I had the procedure done, I understood one thing. The most important part of getting the LASIK surgery is the eye exam you're given, because it's the results of that eye exam and the numbers of where your eyes are at that they put into the computer that goes into the machine that really operates on your eye. All of the doctor did was make a little cut and then flip that little covering over. I don't know the medical term for it, but flip it over, and the machine did the work, did the work on my eye. And so how good the outcome was based on how good the information was. So the better your exam was, the better results you were going to have. That's what really determined it. And once people, if people are paying $10,000 a pop out of their own pocket for this procedure, guess what's going to happen? Other eye doctors are going to get into that business. They're going to spend $250,000 to buy that machine, knowing they can pay off that machine with 25 people, right? Or whatever the machine costs. I'm making up a number here, okay? Don't hold me to the number, but you get the idea. But that's how competition works. And the other doctors saw it, say, I want to make that money too. And so then they start undercutting each other in price, right? That's how it comes down. Because you're paying for it out of your own pocket, because you care. That's why the problem with our current system is we're not connected to the system like we should be. We need to be better connected to the system to be able to help out, to bring costs down ultimately. At least that's one of the things. What else? Standardizing Medicare payments. Lowering costs by 60%. That sounds pretty good. Massive discounts to low-income patients. Why is Trump doing all this stuff for low-income people? I thought he hated poor people. I thought he didn't care about regular people. So, and then transparency, what I talked about, and competition to drug prices. And that needs to be with medicine all across the board. And it should be that way for insurance. So being insurance licensed, which I was, I never sold health insurance because it was kind of a whore business. And what I mean by a whore business is, people cared about what their cost of the insurance was more than anything else. And they weren't loyal clients, that if they could find comparable insurance and cut their cost by $50, they would change their insurance. So I was licensed for it, but I never sold health insurance. But all plans are not approved in all states. Each state has their own insurance department. So you may have a plan. I was in Ohio. There might be a Michigan plan that better fit my needs, that, would let me take care of the lower cost stuff and have maybe a higher deductible or something. Well, that wasn't an option for me because I was in Ohio. I couldn't get that plan. And that's the debate that we never had a clear debate on during the whole Obamacare thing, because the Republicans honestly did a very poor job of offering an alternative. And they hung Trump out to dry, okay, during his first term when Republicans wanted to repeal. Remember, every year Republicans wanted to repeal Obamacare until they finally gave up. Well, Trump put it in place to give them the chance to do so. And who fucked it up? McCain. McCain is the one that gave the vote to stick it to Trump and fuck him and fuck everybody about removing it. But again, part of the problem was the Republicans were against something and didn't really truly promote a replacement. And nobody wants to get rid of what they currently have without knowing something about, it'd be like, we're going to get rid of your car. Well, what kind of new car are you going to get? We don't know what kind of new car we're going to give you yet, but just trust us. Let's get rid of this old car. People are not going to do this old car still works. It gets me to work. I know what the old car does. And you want me to just trust you? We don't trust politicians. You got to be for something. You got to be presenting plans and ideas. And that's the failure of the Democrats right now, is hate orange man. And I don't hear one thing about what they want to do. If you're against Trump's deportation policies, well, what is your deportation policy? What is your recommended way of getting people out of the United States that are not here legally? What's your alternative if you don't like the way he's doing it? I don't hear a single thing. It's just, this is bad. He's doing it wrong. He's this and that. That's all we hear. You got to give people an alternative. And maybe it's good, maybe it's better, maybe it's not. But you have no chance when you're just against shit just to be against it. No, makes no sense whatsoever. So this was a good thing that I just wanted to let people know that, something that he focused on in his first term a little bit and is again bringing focus to is cost and reducing costs for Americans. Because with everything that's going on right now, good stuff like this is getting lost in the whole shit because there's so much. It's just crazy right now. The chances that you're going to see that this is happening are very slim. And one last thing, and I'm going to be next, well, it depends if we do an interview or not the next episode, but coming up shortly, I've been going after Greg Doucette a little bit, and I'm going to go after him a little bit harder for some of the things that he's saying right now. And so I'll be bringing that up and showing you some of his videos. And the dude has recently gone off the deep end, in my opinion, but I used to really like his diet stuff and things that he talked about. But when it comes to supplements and how he is now hardcore, that he's built up an audience pushing this other stuff. I mean, yes, I talked about my business today, but you do not hear me like doing that over and over and over again every episode. You've heard me mention that, I do promote vitamins for a particular company, but how often if I really went in depth about that or doing it every show? I don't. People that are interested will see my social media. They'll ask if they're interested. I don't have to push stuff on people, and I certainly won't push garbage on people. And there's some garbage products out there, and he's not the only one, but I'm going to start maybe doing a segment about these garbage products because there are companies now that are selling GLP-1s that are natural. They're all garbage. There are companies that are now coming out with, we talked about a few weeks ago, the NAD+, which is a fantastic peptide. And now we are seeing NAD+ over-the-counter natural supplements that are meant to increase your NAD levels, and also NMN, which is like a precursor to NAD+. So it's one of those things that helps your NAD+ increase. These over-the-counter natural supplements are garbage. And I'm going to start pointing it out and holding these companies' feet to the fire, and at least informing you'll be in the know that these over-the-counter supplements are garbage and do not work like the real thing. And so there's one more. Pull up the Win 50, the pick. Yeah, that. Okay. So a bunch of companies do this. You can go into a lot of supplement stores and find products like this. So what is Win 50? And it's also gives a drug name underneath it, Vanazolol, that's very similar to the real drug name of Winstrol. And so you see the Win 50, again, it's very much like it's trying to look at the anabolic research. And you do see the dietary supplement on the bottom, which is a giveaway that it's over-the-counter garbage. All right. But look at the packaging. They're trying to package this like some real drugs are packaged. And they're trying to make it look like the real drug Winstrol and present it as a natural alternative that's legal. There's no such thing as a legal steroid. Okay? It does not exist. There is no legal real Winstrol. This is a fake product, and I can tell you 20 some years ago, maybe longer, because I'm old and I don't want to admit it yet. Because it's hard to believe that, it was 30 years ago, I was 27. So let me just be honest then, because it was in my 20s. So 30 years ago, this has been going on a long time. I bought products like this because they were promoted too in bodybuilding magazines. We didn't have videos. We didn't have the internet like this. The internet was in its beginning. We didn't even have hard drives, for God's sakes. We were using floppies. So, but let's look at the ingredients on this. Vitamin B12. Let's just talk about vitamin B12 a minute. Vitamin B12 is great. But here's the thing. If you're not vitamin B12 deficient, getting excess vitamin B12 isn't going to do much for you. A lot of people will get just vitamin B12 injections and they think it's going to work for energy. Again, if you're not vitamin B12 deficient, you're not going to get much results. And most people that are injecting it don't dose it properly. Okay, so that's the other part of it. Caffeine. That's going to give you some energy. So is the energy you're feeling from this product, is it from the vitamin B12 or is it from the caffeine? Dandelion root, I don't even know why they have that what that's supposed to do in there. DHEA, that is, again, you can just buy DHEA. Now, I did buy DHEA years ago over the counter. It was like $8-9 for a bottle of it. Not the 90. Well, here's this. It was $85. $85 for a month's supply of this stuff that is going to give you zero results. It's a total farce. So, dicalcium phosphate, soy. I mean, this is just garbage ingredients here. This is not going to produce any kind of the results that people are looking for. You're not going to get increased strength from this. Again, you might get a little bit of an energy boost because of the caffeine, and because I don't even see on here, it doesn't even give the milligrams of the caffeine in there. But look, you can just take a pre-workout, right? You could do that. There's also good and bad pre-workouts. As I've told you, the supplement business is dirty. It's dirty. And 90% of the shit out there is garbage. So the number one thing you should be doing is eating whole foods. Do the best you can with food. And then supplement if you need to. I do, because I don't get everything I need, from just eating whole foods. I need some help. But I'm taking basic premium vitamins that have been sent to a third company where they have verified that what's on the label is in there. That's what you need to do. You need to do your homework, because nobody else is doing it for you. Or there are some people like me that'll do it for you, some of the homework. But the government is not doing the homework. The fact is, they're allowing companies to basically lie about these supplements and tell you that they are doing such and such, and they don't do that at all. They're just garbage. And maybe in this case, this stuff doesn't harm you, but it'll harm your pocketbook by the $85. Now, the other good thing to do if you want to do this shit right, what do? Get tested, right? Get tested. Get drug tested. Well, not drug tested. Get your blood work done for your testosterone levels, your estrogen levels, your triglycerides, your HDL, just everything. Get a comprehensive blood work panel done, all right? And push your doctor to get that for you. And then what I do for my clients is I review that with them and go over how they can make things better. But that's how you know. Stop fucking guessing. Stop wasting money. Spend the right money in the right place first and find out what you really need, and then make your choices. Are you willing to do it, or are you willing not to do it? Decide if you have low T, it's going to be up to you. Decide, do you want to treat it or not? You want to believe the people that are scaremongering people, or do you want to believe someone who's worked with thousands of people and has done it himself for 16 years? Those are your choices. So there we go. What do we have time-wise? I did pretty good on that. I guess I could have done the whole show on that if I wanted. But I do want to move to the hottest topic this week, which is pull up the Facebook. We're going to go to that. We're going to skip this other stuff. I posted this on Facebook, and I'm going to read it to you. And if you don't follow me on Facebook, follow me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on X. TikTok. I used to have 15,000 followers on Instagram, and I gave it up because I had a lot of bots and fucked up shit that was happening with the account. So now I got, I don't know, 300 or 400. So come and join my 300 or 400 people. And Facebook is probably the biggest one. That's around 5,000. TikTok was at 15,000 before they closed that account and I had to start a new one. And I'm getting close to 3,000 now on that, building that back up. It's work. And X, I have worked very hard to increase that by 70 some people over a 6-month period of time. It's so crazy, but I do still love commenting on X and posting stuff there. So it's a good place to follow me because I'm totally unfiltered on X for sure. But here, Patty Moran pled with the press today to tell the truth about her murdered daughter. It's hard to imagine that a U.S. senator would care more about a gang member than a U.S. citizen, But this is where we are today with Democrats, and it makes me sick. And then these are her words during the press conference at the White House. To have a senator from Maryland who didn't even acknowledge or barely acknowledge my daughter and the brutal death that she endured, leaving her 5 children without a mother so that he can use my taxpayer money to fly to El Salvador to bring back someone that's not even an American citizen. Marin told reporters Wednesday at the White House. Why does that person have more rights than I do, or my daughter, or my granddaughter? I don't understand this. And I mentioned also in the comments that you can find this on YouTube. Obviously, if you didn't see it, if you want to see it unfiltered, if you want to see the press conference, if you want to see what the press secretary has to say, and then she introduces Patty, and I got to tell you, it brought tears to my eyes listening to her, because the trial of the man who killed her was just finished. And it was a brutal, horrific murder and rape. I mean, this guy bashed the back of this woman's head in against rocks until it was crumbled like stone. But she wasn't dead yet, and he raped her a couple of times. And literally, because of how he dragged her, like almost every single part of her body, it was described, had a contusion, a cut, a bruise, something. It was unimaginable. And on this senator's social media, he did make a post, but he also wanted to, instead of focusing on that, he had to couch what he said and not really be all that supportive. Now, the president of El Salvador, many of you might have seen, was in the White House this week. And he was asked directly, because the court has maybe or maybe not said that we have to bring him back. They said the U.S. had to facilitate, but it's kind of, was it Clinton who talked about the definition of the word is? Depends on what the definition of the word is. Well, in this case, it's what did the Supreme Court mean by facilitate? And this man is from El Salvador, got returned to his home country, and more evidence that the government had that he was a member of the MS-13 gang has been released because of the constant, like when the left media talks about this in their headline, they talk about him as a Maryland dad. And one of the things that Patty says is, he was an illegal alien from El Salvador, but her daughter was a Maryland mom of 5 kids. Those kids have no mother now. Because this was brutal and horrific. And this argument, I don't get it, that, well, they don't commit that many crimes, or, Americans commit more crimes. That's such a shitty argument, because these are specifically ones that don't have to happen. They don't have to happen. And the idea that everyone is going to get some kind of, they do not have the same rights as you and I have. Like if you can't afford to represent yourself, you can have an attorney appointed to you. In certain of these immigration cases, that's not the case. They're not getting government paid for attorneys to represent them. And they they do have rights. They have some human rights here, living here, but it's not at the same level that it is for you and I. And why would you expect it to be? Why you have the right to vote? Why should they have the right to vote? They shouldn't. I mean, who really thinks that? So the rights are not exactly the same. And so people that are trying to pass this off as, that there's no due process, there was a process. And this guy is not going to be sent back. So it was a complete PR stunt by this U.S. senator to go down to El Salvador at taxpayer expense. The Salvadorian president wouldn't even talk to him. He didn't even get to talk to anybody. He didn't get to see the prisoner. He didn't get to talk to the Salvadoran president. And he came home with nothing but press. That's what they wanted. That's what he wanted. Because the previous day, the president of that country in the White House said, we're not sending him back. He's their citizen. So in that prison, that's where, the other thing people have to really understand is El Salvador was a really shitty place to go. You weren't going on into El Salvador on vacation, but you could now. I don't know if it's a beautiful country or not. Maybe it is, but it's actually safe to go there now. It wasn't even safe for their own citizens until this guy, what? What do you got?
To my knowledge, I don't think it's still a safe place to go to. I could be wrong.
I don't know, but you're right. But you have to understand too, like there's, I went to Mexico this past weekend and crossed the border, and friends were like, oh my God, are you sure? Is that okay? Yeah, it's okay. You know what? You go to Mexico and if you don't do dumb shit, and dumb shit won't happen, right? Basically. Are there parts you shouldn't go? Yeah, there's parts of Chicago you shouldn't go. But this is just from El Salvadoran citizens that I've heard comment, not government people, but people that are citizens of the country are saying it's way better than what it was, that it's really been cleaned up, because this guy is hardcore, went after gangs in El Salvador, like really hardcore cleaning up the streets. In fact, people don't like him, just like they don't like Trump, because of some of his tactics removing these people off the streets. But he's done it. But like I said, I agree with you. I don't know if it's safe or not. I'm just going by it that it's supposed to be safer than it was. And that's from, some of their own citizens. But the guy is hardcore trying to turn that country around. It was not a great place to go. And by the people, it seems like, unlike in this country where we have that half of the people hating the orange man, in that country, a good majority are loving this guy for what he's doing and cleaning things up. So this particular thing is not over. This is just an area that I don't understand why the Democrats continue to want to prove that they care more about illegal aliens than we care about our own people. And, if you hadn't listened, even, if this vote or race doesn't involve you, I really listened to the interview I did of U.S. congressional candidate Daniel Gutierrez. It's a good interview. And Daniel did a great job, I thought, of explaining issues. What was your feeling about how he answered questions and stuff in detail and stuff?
It's hard for me to kind of fully comment on a lot of those things, because it seems like a lot of the places he kind of has been experienced, a lot of his things are a completely different area of Arizona that I've experienced. So I'm sure everything that, it was crazy listening to what he was saying. But
Well, and I'm talking and maybe more specifically too, about it was interesting to find out how much money was spent on the homeless encampments in Tucson. Less than $500,000, getting no results at all, not helping any of these people get better or get off the streets. But that in Arizona, $20 million, was spent on housing illegal aliens and providing services and benefits to them. And it's just a matter of taking care of our own first. I'm not saying we don't help other people. Again, I'm one of those people that I know that our immigration system is fucked. And I'm not somebody that wants to keep immigrants out. I'm one of those people that wants to make it, I don't know statistically or, at what level we should be allowing people in or the numbers. There are much more other people capable of coming up with that stuff than me. But I'm all for that happening. I'm all for more people coming here legally and providing for a better process that doesn't take years and years and years. But I want to take care of our own people first. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with us wanting to take care of our neighbors. There's nothing wrong with us wanting to help people whose homes have been totally destroyed in North Carolina or wherever, or, tornadoes. It doesn't matter. We've had some or fires, right? But we should be helping those people first. And we're doing a piss poor job of it, and people are tired of it. And it doesn't make us bad people for wanting that to happen or to vet the people that are coming across. And like I mentioned to Daniel, why are people from China coming through Mexico into this country? Why are people from the Middle East on terrorist watch lists? Now, that number, I think, was around, I don't know for which year, but it was around 1,600 or something like that. But whatever the number is, I don't care if it's 160. I want a secure border so that 160 suspected terrorists don't cross the border there. That's it. You have to come through a real port of entry and not just anywhere along the border and come here illegally. And I'm also for, while we fix the immigration process, people that want to come here and work for a little while and go back home and go back and forth like it used to be when I was a little kid. There needs to be a program for that that's maybe bigger than it is now. Because, again, some people are going to be deported that their only illegal action is crossing the border illegally. And if they're good people and that's all they did, we need to find a path for those people. But to start with, it's removal first, and then being able to vet people and let people come in that way and just do it the right way. I'm just for doing it the right way. I'm not against immigration. I'm not saying we should, but we have had that in this country. We have had periods in our history where for a period of time, because we had let so many people in from all over the world, we had to let the melting pot melt first and people assimilate. And then they started again bringing people in. I mean, but this is just, people don't really know that unless you give a shit about that. And because it's not taught in most of our history stuff. I mean, people aren't learning that stuff. You learn that stuff on your own. If you give a shit about it, that's how you learn about it. But this was just totally tone deaf by this senator to do this but it makes sense because they don't really care right now. It's everything is orange man bad. And the guy's not coming back no matter what. And even if they were to have him come back, And the U.S. would allow it. They've said, because they want to follow the Supreme Court order, that if El Salvador sent him or El Salvador wants us to send a plane to get him, we would do it. But as soon as he got here, he would still be detained and he would be deported somewhere else. Because that was the only thing in there, is at one point through the due process is he got a temporary stay, but basically the ruling was we weren't going to deport him back to El Salvador, but he was going to be deported. And it just so happens he got deported back to El Salvador. So it's hard to argue about somebody getting deported back to their home country. Really. And then all of the stuff, like I think it's coming out now that domestic violence with his wife and things like this, because they're trying to present like this guy is like totally clean, upstanding citizen and stuff. Now, we're seeing more of that stuff be released, why the government was saying, and then he maybe didn't have it on him, but he was arrested with a group of people who, you know, if you're hanging with other known MS-13 gang members that for sure are MS-13 gang members and they get busted and you're with them, there's at least a likelihood that you might be too, or a supporter of the organization or affiliated. You know, when I was in a motorcycle club, you had the members and then you had, you know, hanger-ons that would come around and stuff. They weren't members, but, you know, they kind of were around and doing the things that we did. And I think they got busted with coke and cash, and he had big rolls of cash and just other things that, you know, showed that he was in. I mean, they don't have IDs that say MS-13 gang member on them. So there's no smoking gun like that. You know, it is what they talk about, the tattoos and the dressing and, you know, the activities that they're involved in. And this guy just wasn't some Saint Maryland man. That just was not the case. So that's what I have for today. Those were the big things. But glad we got to cover it and still get to this a little bit. This is really it. But I do, one last thing, I do really encourage you. It's not very long. And you can even skip the Carolyn Levitt part and go right to the part where Patty speaks. It's not long, but she speaks from the heart. And if that doesn't touch you, you're not fucking human. You're not human. You're a shitty human being if that doesn't touch you listening to her talk about her daughter. Because, you know, I'm a big, bad, tough guy. And it hit me hard. That was definitely one of those things. All right, that's what we got. This has been the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy.
Whoa! Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces.